I found the letter by accident. At least, that's what I tell myself. It was inside an old notebook we hadn't opened in years. One of those things you keep because throwing it away feels wrong, even though you never use it. I was cleaning, not because the house was dirty, but because cleaning keeps your hands busy when your mind doesn't want to be still. The notebook slipped from the shelf. It fell open, and the letter slid out. I recognized the handwriting immediately. You don't forget the way someone you love writes, even years later, even after everything changes. At first, I didn't read it. I just stared at it. The paper was yellow, thin, worn at the edges. It looked old, older than it should have been. I sat down on the floor with my back against the couch. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels too loud once you notice it. I told myself I could put it back, pretend I never saw it, but my fingers were already unfolding the paper. The letter didn't start with my name. That was the first cut. No, my love. No, dear. Just a sentence. I don't know how to say this out loud. I read that line 3 times, because suddenly, I understood why it was written. He wrote about silence, about how silence doesn't arrive suddenly. It grows slowly, between shared dinners and polite conversations, between I'm tired and maybe tomorrow. He said silence becomes normal before it becomes painful. I wondered when I had stopped noticing it. He wrote that he still loved me, but not in the way he used to. That sentence stayed with me longer than the rest. Not because it was cruel, but because it was careful, as if he wanted to hurt me, as little as possible, while still being honest. Then came her, not her name, just her. She listens, he wrote. She asks questions. I laughed quietly when I read that, because I remembered asking him questions. I remembered listening. I just stopped asking the ones he didn't want to answer. He wrote that it wasn't planned, that it just happened. That phrase felt familiar. It's the sentence people use when they want forgiveness without responsibility. He described moments, small ones, coffee, late conversations, shared silence, nothing dramatic. And somehow that made it worse, because it meant this wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, made slowly, over time. He apologized, not for loving someone else, but for lying, as if the truth was the real betrayal. I wondered how long he had practiced that apology. In his head, near the end, the handwriting changed. It became less careful, less neat, like he was tired or relieved. He wrote, I hope you never read this. I felt something break then, not loudly, not all at once, just quietly, like a crack spreading through glass. I folded the letter exactly the way I found it. That felt important. I put it back inside the notebook, back under the shelf. Then I sat there, waiting. That evening, he came home like always. He asked about my day. I asked about his. We talked about nothing important, and I realized something terrifying. He was happy, or at least, lighter, as if something heavy had already been removed from his life. That night, he kissed my forehead, a gentle, familiar gesture, the kind that means comfort, not desire. I stared at the ceiling long after he fell asleep. I listened to his breathing, steady, peaceful. I wondered how many nights he had slept like this. After writing that letter, knowing the truth was hidden only a few steps away from me. The next morning, I made coffee. I watched his hands around the cup, the same hands that wrote the letter. I noticed how easily he avoided my eyes, not because he was guilty, but because he was done. I didn't confront him. Not because I was afraid, but because I didn't want explanations. Some truths lose their power when they're spoken too much. Instead, I went to the store. I bought a notebook, old-fashioned, yellow paper, the same kind. I wrote my own letter. It took less than 5 minutes. There was nothing to explain, nothing to justify. I wrote. I read it. That was all. I left it on the table, next to the coffee cup, next to the life we had built. Then I packed a small bag. Only the things I needed. Leaving was easier than staying would have been. He called me later, once, then again. I let the phone ring. I imagined him standing in the kitchen, reading the letter. I wondered if he felt relief or panic. I didn't answer, because some conversations are only meant to confirm what you already know. That night, I slept somewhere else. The room felt unfamiliar, but peaceful. For the first time in a long time, I slept without listening for someone else's breathing. Days passed, then weeks. He stopped calling. I never went back for the notebook. Some things are better left where they belong. Sometimes I think about the letter, about how close I came to never finding it, and I realize something now. It wasn't written for me. It was written for him, so he could feel honest, without having to be brave. And maybe that's why it hurt so much. Because I wasn't betrayed by the truth. I was betrayed by the silence that came before it.